Salut, David Ullman here for Overloud.com. Today talking to you about a feature that is found in TH2, the SLR. SLR stands for Seamless Live Remodeling. It's a fancy word, but really all that it means is that we're going to take two different amps, blend them together to create something new. This is actually revolutionary. I'm not talking about placing a microphone in front of two amps to capture the essence of these two amps. I'm actually talking about really blending together the characteristics of amp A and B together to create something really unique. We're going to start in TH2 with a blank canvas on which we're going to add an amplifier and a head. This can be done by right-clicking on the first available space. We're going to click Amp plus Head. If we take a closer look at the head section, there are two different amp models that can be assigned there. On the left side and on the right side. We're going to use two different types of amps. On the left side, we're going to use a very clean type of amp, something like Fender Tweed. We can find this in the Darkface 65. On the right side, we're going to use something very different. We're going to use a Marshall type of tone, and we can find a good replica of a classic Marshall amp with the Rock 900 model. The slider allows you to move from one amp to the other. On the left side, you can see that the drive is not activated. That's because you don't find a drive on the modeled amp. If I move the slider all the way to the right so that the Marshall amp is active, the drive is also active. That's because you do have a drive knob on the Marshall amps. If the slider is all the way to the left, the Darkface is active. That's the Fender type of amp. We're going to get a very clean, creamy type of tone. If the slider is moved all the way to the right, now it's the Rock 900 amp that is active. That's the Marshall type of amp. We're going to get a very rich, compressed, crunchy type of tone. By moving the slider, we can determine how much characteristic of the amps we want to hear. If the slider is right on the middle, we created a new amp model using the characteristics of amp A, the Fender amp, and amp B, the Marshall amp. Right in the middle is the hybrid amp we created. There are two main uses for the SLR. The first one is to create unique tones, blending the characteristics of amp A and B into something completely new. This is going to allow you to create your own amp, creating your own tone, your signature tone, by taking the characteristics of two amps, mixing them together. The SLR also allows you to gently move from one tone to the other. Drag and drop your amp to an available smart control. We'll then assign to that smart control the SLR. In the preference panel, the Midi Binding will allow you to configure TH2 to communicate with your pedal board. In this case, we assign the SLR to the third smart control. If I click on that third smart control, I can simply activate my MIDI controller to make it communicate with the software. You can simply use the expression pedal of that MIDI board to gently go from one tone to the other. The SLR is only one of many aspects found in the software. This really allows you to create the kind of tone that you want to get, whether you're after a classic tone heard in many, many albums, or something brand new. The SLR is going to really help you shape your tone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Make sure you check out Overloud.com for a free demo of their software, TH2. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Until then, salut!